What's going on, everybody? Today I'm going to show you how to restore a deck using pressure washing and restorative chemicals, pretty much. You can see this is treated pine. There's a lot of grain going on. I'll show you the deck boards. They're not too bad. There is some green down in there. And then this definitely has taken a little bit of a beating right here where it's enclosed. It's not too bad. Looks like maybe some, I don't know, wear from a dog or something. But anyways, okay, so here's what you'll need. You'll need a pump up sprayer. Now there's an option to do the wood brightener as well, but you technically just need this, which is sodium metasilicate and a measuring cup and a pump up sprayer. Now, if you also want to do a brightening, then you can get oxalic acid. You can get it from Stain and Seal Experts. I'll pop it up. If not, you can get it from Ace Hardware, Home Depot. Pretty much a lot of places sell oxalic. Metasilicate's a lot harder to find, especially at a reasonable price. You will also need a pressure washer. Now, yes, I've got a setup. You don't need one. I'll explain why later, but pretty much any pressure washer will do with any amount of pressure, as long as it's, somewhat. Even an electric one should work fine. Now, as far as the amount of chemical I need, it's probably only about a half a gallon to clean that whole deck, maybe a gallon to play it safe, but I'm just going to do 2 gallons just because I will use any excess later. But I'm just using a regular pump up sprayer, deck and bleach from Ace Hardware, and it's 2 gallons, and I've had this one for a while and it actually works pretty well. Some of them are junk, but it's got this adjustable thing, and yeah, it works pretty well. I've been happy with it. Anyways, so people always get a little intimidated when I say you have to mix this, but all you have to do is take a cup, get your beads, and it's not a bad idea to use gloves and stuff. This stuff honestly isn't that strong, but if you're kind of sensitive to chemicals, then not a bad idea. Anyways, then you just dump it in there. All right, now we're going 1 cup per gallon. There's 2 gallons in here. That's about medium strength. So here's our second cup to make it 1 cup per gallon. And then once I turn my pressure washer on, I'm gonna rinse that and get all that into the cup just so it's not sitting on this stuff. But it's literally that simple. Then you just put your lid on, shake it up, and you've got your chemical. So mixing it is not difficult. Medium strength is what I did. It's about 1 cup to a gallon. That's gonna be good enough for most stuff. If it's really not dirty at all, like on the floor, we could probably go a little lighter than that, 1/2 cup to a gallon, but I've just found that for most stuff, 1 cup to a gallon is good. The other thing that's nice about sodium metasilicate is that it is actually a mild stripper as well, meaning if there is an oil-based coating or like a clear water base, it usually will take it off. So I don't know what that is, and I can't tell for sure on the floor, but it's possible there's some sort of clear coating on here. And so if that's the case, this will take it off. Just bleach won't do that. Now, it's not going to strip your heavy water-based stains. I've got a video on that too. It's pretty brutal process to actually strip like a water-based stain that's really on there. But it's just something I thought I'd mention as well. If you've got an oil-based coating or like a clear water base, like a Thompson's Water Seal, for example, it should do a good job of taking that off so that you can get a stain to penetrate in. All right, so let's talk pressure washers. So the good news is pretty much any pressure washer will work for this. I've got this extremely long gun because I snapped my other one the other day that's like this short. So this is actually gonna be pretty annoying to work with. It's nice for some stuff, but so the reason just about any pressure washer will work is because the chemical is doing all the lifting. You're basically rinsing it off. Now, you do need some pressure, so a garden hose typically isn't going to be enough. But if you look at this tip, which is the one I'm going to use, very little pressure is coming out of this because it's so wide. And so even if you had like a small electric pressure washer, it should still be able to do it pretty quickly, because again, you're just using it to push all that stuff off, not necessarily dig in and get it all out. And so anyways, I'll give you tips on how to actually do the pressure washing, but the first thing you want to do is pre-wet the deck, and then you want to apply the cleaner. So I'll show that. So I know I said it's a mild chemical, but when you're applying it, you should wear eye protection and a mask of some sort. I have a respirator on here, but you can see as I'm applying this chemical, it's actually creating kind of a darkening effect in the wood, and it does do that a little bit, which is why the brightener can help afterwards, although, you know, once you rinse it off, you can see it starts to really get that natural color back. Now here in a second, I am going to explain how to actually do the pressure washing. I thought I was hooked up to a mic, but I wasn't, so it might be a little bit quiet. But with wood, technique actually is pretty important. You will see scarring a lot of times where people don't know how to clean wood. But the main thing is just having a tip that isn't too strong of pressure. You just don't need that much pressure when you are applying chemical. Now, if I wasn't using a chemical on this job, I would need quite a bit of pressure, and that's where you can risk damaging the wood, furring it up, all that stuff. But as long as you're using the right chemicals, you really don't have to use much pressure. But anyways, here's a demonstration of how to actually perform the pressure washing. So when you're pressure washing wood, you always want to go with the grain. So the grain's pointed that way, so I want to go that way. The other thing is you don't want to do this, because what you're doing is you're going to scar the wood up. I'll throw a picture up. Now, I'm using such little pressure that I really can't do that even if I want to. But if you're using a higher pressure tip and you go like that, it's going to scar the wood up. So instead what you want to do is it's kind of like a golf swing. Right, so when you also want to start the pressure washer right here, pointed at the wood. Right, so I'm going to start it up here, pointed away. I'm going to slowly come down, and then I'm going to go with the grain. And then when I lift up, I don't want it to stop. That's going to scar it. So instead, I'm going to lift up like that. And then I can let go of the trigger just like a golf swing. I'll show you what I'm doing. It's also a good idea to go from the start of the board all the way to the end. Now, if you use the golf swing method and you don't start or stop directly at the wood, you can start anywhere you want, especially if you're using lower pressure. But if you're getting started, it's not a bad idea to just go all the way with the wood at one time. Alright, so we're done with step one, which honestly is where I would quit 99% of the time because we stain it anyways. But I'll show oxalic acid, which is a wood brightener for the purposes of this video. You'll see a lot of green right there. That's not algae, that is how pressure treated wood looks sometimes. Certain boards just look like that. When it's dry, it's not nearly as noticeable. And if the customer wants perfect results, like totally uniform, I recommend going with the darker semi-transparent stain. And if you do that, you won't be able to see it at all. So I rarely just very, very rarely just clean wood. We almost always stain it afterwards, but I'll show you guys after it dries and it'll look fine. But as far as oxalic, you never want to mix it with another chemical, so get a completely separate pump up sprayer, especially not bleach, because that will cause a bad reaction. And so same thing, 1 cup to a gallon. It works as a wood brightener, a little bit of a cleaner as well. I'll show you in action. So you'll notice there is certainly a brightening effect. It's not a massive difference, but it is noticeable. I usually don't do this though, because when you think about if you're using a high pigment stain, the little bit of difference that this makes is not really going to be noticeable once you stain it. And there are, it's pretty commonly said in the industry that this is going to neutralize the other chemical, which I assume is true. Although in my experience, I haven't had any stains fail without, quote unquote, neutralizing a chemical. And so I think it does get better results. I just think it's marginal. Now, you'll notice I'm rinsing the windows, and that is because if a chemical dries on there, it can be a problem. So anytime you're applying chemicals to a deck like this, just make sure you keep everything wet and rinse really well afterwards. Well, as you guys can see, huge difference. Looking a lot better. I think that brightener actually did really make an impact. I normally don't do that, but I figured for the video, why not? Still got a lot of green, but again, just something that isn't going to come out. You could probably get that color out if you nuke it with bleach, like a hot mix. The problem is you're nuking all the color out of the wood too, and making it extremely dry, and probably furring it up a bit. So, risk to reward, not really worth it in my opinion, but I'm going to come back when it's dry and we'll see the real results. All right, it has now had plenty of time to dry fully, and it came out looking pretty good. So you can see the green isn't really even noticeable when it's dry.